Good evening. I'd like to call our April 22nd school board meeting to order. First item would be the Pledge of Allegiance, led by myself. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. All right. Number 4, approval of the agenda. Do we have any questions, any concerns over the agenda? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Estes. Second, Ms. Bratton. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Approval of consent agenda. Any questions on the consent agenda? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, who was that? Ms. Johnson? Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Estes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, number 6 is visitors. We do have one visitor tonight, Michael Harris. All right, I don't guess Mr. Harris is present. All right, moving on to number 7.
All right, number 7 is recognition of the ROTC Distinguished Leader Graduate Award presentation.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A little over a year ago, recognize a lot of you, we put to you and you approved a Distinguished Leader ROTC Graduate Award, and it is to recognize cadets that lead by example. And they lead by example in 3 different ways. They've got to be physically tough, they've got to be intellectually sharp, and emotionally stable, and you approved some measures of effectiveness to determine, are we actually doing these things? They have to meet the National Fitness Award in each of 5 physical fitness events in their physical challenge in their senior year. They have to conduct at least 12 hours of community service. Most of them are probably closer to 100. They have to maintain at least a 3.5 overall GPA and a 4.0 in ROTC studies. They have to have at least a 22 ACT score. They also have to have been on an extracurricular team for 3 years and have been its captain for at least one of those years in the last 2 years. And they also have to have had no disciplinary issues and good attendance for the past 3 years. Gives them an opportunity to make a mistake in their freshman year and recover for those. I am personally very, very pleased with all 4 of them. I had experience directly with 3 of them. Abby Daniels, I taught at Oakland High School. Jaden Norman, I taught for a time at Oakland High School. Matthew Sanders, I taught his 2 older brothers when they were in the International Baccalaureate program at Oakland High School. And I would tell you that his eldest brother graduated from the United States Naval Academy and is a surface warfare officer. His older brother, Ben, graduated from Virginia Tech and was pursuing a commission in the United States Army, and we found out recently that Matthew has been accepted in the United States Air Force Academy at Colorado Springs. Additionally, Ariana Cargill from Blackman has been accepted into the United States Military Academy at West Point. If you would look on their shoulders, every single one of them is their battalion commander for their school. The senior armed instructors are doing a great job picking the very best to lead by example, and they're doing it in all these areas. So if I could get Abby Daniels. Here you go, sir. for. And a graduation stool. Ariana Carver. Matthew Sanders. And Jaden Norman. I couldn't be more proud if they were my own kids.
All right, thank you. Number 8.
All right, number 8 is United Way position with Atlas, found on tab 2. United Way of Greater Nashville would like to partner with Rutherford County Schools to create a family engagement specialist position to be completely funded by United Way grant. This would include health benefits, supplies, and phone. This is a flexible position working with Atlas families, coordinating food and other basic need deliveries, as well as working with other aspects of a family collective program, linking families to other resources such as housing referrals, medical and child care, and other community agencies. This position would allow Atlas program to free up valuable time for our school counselors, allowing them to meet the needs of their students while we assist their parents and families. Motion to approve the Rutherford County School Atlas Programs partnership with United Way as presented. And Ms. Jessica Johnson, our Atlas coordinator, would you come up, please, and introduce yourself? And while you're at it, tell us about that $8,000 grant you got, or $8,000 donation you got.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Jessica Johnson. Thank you for having me. The Atlas program received an amazing donation from the Rotary Club of Smyrna to help us in our continuing efforts to help Rutherford County families. We are currently serving 800 students and families, and this year we're about 300 plus students down of our typical number. So we're doing big things. We know that the need is there. We are grateful for everyone in our community that is helping us. By partnering with United Way, this is going to give us more advantages to help our families in a greater way. By linking them with these resources, we know they need them. We know they need assistance finding stable housing, finding medical, mental health benefits, finding jobs. By helping these families become more stable, we know that this is going to help our students be more stable. They're going to be able to come back to our schools and be ready to learn, to be successful in classrooms, and that's what we all want.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
When did I hire you as a counselor?
11 years ago in June.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You know, one of the things that was amazing about Ms. Johnson, what she did, is her genuineness about caring about young people. When we were down at the Rotary Club and she got up to give her speech, she was just crying. I think she had the whole room crying. You know, if there's anyone that has a passion for young people to the nth degree, it's Ms. Johnson. We're very thankful that you are a part of Rutherford County Schools. And I'd also like to point out on this grant, this is a 3-year, but it's annual review.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. United Way is also here today. If we have any questions for them, they'd be glad to talk to us. Does anybody have any questions? I'd be glad to help. Okay.
Could the people from United Way stand for us?
Do we have any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion?
I move.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. Do we have a second? Ms. Johnson, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You.
All right, number 9.
All right, number 9 is found ESL extended contract found on tab 3. The ESL department will be writing course descriptions for ESL course codes during the month of June. One ESL teacher will be offered an extended contract to complete the project. The amount of the contract is $150 a day and not to exceed 3 days. The total amount of this extended contract will not exceed $450 and will be paid for with Title III funds. The department is also seeking an amendment to previously approved extended contracts for 16 ESL teachers over 2 days. The amendment includes 3 additional days for curriculum development. The appropriate total cost of the 5-day unit planning is $12,000, which is $150 per day per teacher, and will be funded by Title III funds. Motion to approve the Title III funded extended contracts for curriculum development and course description project for the ESL program as presented.
Any questions? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Second? Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 10.
All right, number 10 will be presented by Dr. Sullivan. This is concerning the Rethink Forward Charter application.
Thank you, Mr. Spurlock. School Board, if you will, we have several manila folders. You have one that has application for a public charter school as soon as you open it up. And there are several documents here that I kind of wanted to go through with you. All right, the very first thing this is, I want to take a second and thank our charter review team. As we were completing our initial review, you're required to do an initial review and a final review. The hours that this team that you all appointed, I cannot thank them enough for their work on this. They truly went above and beyond and just learning the entire process. We're very thankful for their work and partnership through that. If you will, turn on that very first document to page 3. And this is the application for Rutherford Collegiate Prep. You will see that they indicate the applicant type as a New Start applicant, Category 1. And you will then see above that, does this applicant have charter school applications under consideration by any other authorizers? And they indicate no. And that will be important with another document I share with you in just a little while. So they are indicating here that it is a New Start applicant. If you will, on the next document then, this looks similar, but it's an application for a public charter school. And turn to page 4. Page 4 asks, based on which category an applicant falls in, what components are required sections. As a New Start applicant, you would see that a sponsor with no existing schools would require 1.1 through 1.12, 2.1 through 2.11, and 3.1 and 3.2. We were in the middle of doing our initial review when we came to 2.12 to realize that those sections weren't there and why they would have been important and required that you'll see here in a section and looking at a different category. While we are looking at why it is not a New Start applicant, and then I said in this little for information only, and I'll go ahead and read what that says. It says, Rethink Forward applied for authorization as a charter school to operate in Rutherford County beginning with the 22-23 school year. Rethink Forward identified themselves as a Category 1 New Start applicant. However, the proposed charter group is operating Nashville Collegiate Prep and thus would not be a Category 1 applicant. It would instead be a Category 2 or 3 application. Based on semantics, you could argue a Category 2 or 3, which isn't going to matter for our purposes. But based on this category, the application submitted is incomplete as it's missing the required sections 2.12, 2.13, 2.14, 2.15, 3.3, and 4.1. If you will then turn to the next document, the application completion and submission instructions. And on the second page, for letter F, these are the state board rules for charter school, approval of a charter school. You'll see about 3/4 of the way down with letter F, an application shall be considered complete if, number one, the application is submitted in the application cycle, it was. Two, the application contains all required information, materials, documents, attachments, and signatures. If you then see in G, authorizers, which would be Rutherford County School Board, shall not be required to review and formally act upon an application if, and turning over to the next page. Number two, the charter application is not complete as defined in paragraph F. And so all of that to say, in not having those sections as being a category 2 or category 3, depending on how you word it, they would not meet the requirements of having a completed application, and thus we would not have any requirement or background in able to do a completed application. I did give you 2 other documents. One of those, an initial letter to Mr. Spurlock on April 20th by Rethink Forward, arguing some of these specifics, and then our response dated yesterday on April 21st, restating the reasoning for the falling in a category 2 or 3. And I want to call a couple to your attention. The first one, and this is the document from Mr. Spurlock with RCS on the front. In the letter, and this is paragraph 2, it states, you indicated that Nashville Collegiate Prep was not chartered with the Tennessee Public Charter Schools Commission until February 10th, 2021. However, the charter agreement made publicly available on the charter website shows an effective date of December 16th, 2020, which will be prior to the application deadline. Rethink Forward celebrated this milestone by posting a thank you on the Facebook page on December 16th, 2020 for your charter being, in quote, officially executed. It goes on with NCP, which is Nashville Collegiate Prep's Facebook page, posted on January 4th. It would open for enrollment of students beginning January 9th. And there are other details, but that was one of the main ones that I wanted to kind of point out. In looking through this, we also, in making sure we are doing our due diligence, reached out to TSBA, and also we talked to the Tennessee Charter School Commission, but they are the appellate group if we were to actually make a up or down vote on this. And so we just had a conversation to where they can't necessarily advise because they are an appellate group. And that kind of summarizes. I want to thank Sarah Page as well for her work on this. She has been phenomenal and an asset that I can't even tell you how lucky we are to have her here. Anything you want to add?
Sarah, with the denial, do we anticipate them come back with a rebuttal to anything that we've?
Group, and I understand that this is frustrating for them. So we'll anticipate a response, and we will deal with that when it comes, and we'll work with them as best we can. And we don't want to be, we're always out to be a good community partner, and we've been increasing our school choices even here. I think the important element for us to consider is the intent, and that's the last paragraph I talk about with Mr. Spurlock in the letter. These are not trying to catch someone on a technicality. These are important because when you have multiple charter schools that are showing the same sort of instructional program, we need one, those 2 years of proof that that model works for kids, and two, that we understand how those schools communicate. That section 2 that Dr. Sullivan talked about, that's where they talk about how do our schools work together in a network. So that was important information to us. So, but we look forward to seeing where it goes. So we're here for them.
This may or may not come back before this board again. Just a word of warning, be careful what you put on social media. The eyes are watching.
All right. Any questions on number 10? All right, number 11.
All right, number 11. Policy Committee recommendations found on tab 4. We have several policy changes here. The following changes and additions and deletions are recommended for adoption for the board on first reading. Policy 6.702, the student clubs and organizations, has been removed administratively to improve the language with more input from the virtual school to ensure it meets all needs. Policy 1.700, school district goals. Policy 4.605, graduation requirements. Policy 5.100, personnel goals. Policy 5.110, compensation guides and contracts. Policy 6.204, attendance of non-resident students. Policy 6.300, code of conduct. Policy 6.303, interrogations and searches. Policy 6.309, zero tolerance offenses. This would include 1, policy 6.312, use of personal communication devices and electronic devices. Its updated language added limitations on confiscation of devices. One of the things we don't want to get into is taking up devices that be lost and we'd have to replace them. Policy 6.500, special education students, amended to clarify procedure, making expectations and authority. Let me explain on these cell phones. If a school has a policy about when the cell phones are to be used and some young man or young lady that's using it and they don't put it away, you know, that's called a disciplinary infraction. We should not be into the of taking up the item. If it becomes magnifies to become a greater issue, that's what discipline, carrying out discipline is all about. So we wanted to stay out of that. So, motion to adopt the above policy changes on first reading as presented.
Any questions? Do we have a motion?
I move.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. Do I have a second? Mr. Estes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 12, financial matters.
All right, number 12, financial matters, new salary schedule for Rutherford County school nurses. First, before we get our speaker coming tonight, we've got Ms. Stevenson here with us, for the HR director for the county is going to be speaking. But I just want to make sure that everyone understands that at no time have we mentioned about removing anyone from their current salary structure. How many nurses do we have, Doug, currently on 50?
54, I believe.
54? We have 54. Those 54, if this is adopted by the board, those 54, their salary would not change. Only through attrition and growth would we place someone on this structure here. So, Ms. Stevenson, if you'd come up and kind of give us an overview on your expertise in this area.
Thank you, and good evening for allowing me to be here this evening.
Take that mask off a little bit to speak.
Okay, it might be easier for you to understand me. Thank you. So it was requested that I review, we do salary surveys at the county every year, as I'm sure the school board does as well, looking at counties similar in size, larger in size, just to see, to make sure that we stay competitive in our pay range. And so when it was presented to me to not only analyze what the counties do that are surrounding us, but also other school systems and what our local health department pays, community care, and some of the private pay nursing homes that I have access to, just to see that the skill sets are similar in nature to what is taking place in the school system. While they may have some items in the school system where they're giving nursing care that's not as advanced as they may be in a hospital, they're still giving care for children in the schools that may be, it's more than just a Band-Aid or, you know, something of that nature. They're doing higher level things as well. So when I review, to try to make sure that we were comparing apples to apples, you can't just compare the salary itself. You have to look at what the hourly rate is, because with the 200 school days, that equals to 1,500 hours a year of work time. And when I compare to what the other establishments work, they work 1,950 hours. So when you're looking at the rate of pay, it's more equitable to do an hourly rate of pay. So currently, the Board of Education pays $27.43 an hour for their RNs. With the proposed rate of $26.66, that still makes the Board of Education very marketable for others in the industry, for not only the school systems that are competitors of Rutherford County, but also in competition with other county governments, as well as community care and some of the nursing homes. The county's health department currently pays for RNs $25.02 an hour. Community care pays $25.63. Then when you start looking at Williamson County's health department, it's $22.30. Hamilton County, which currently is the third largest county in the state, is paying $24.43, and Knox County is $27.53. So at the proposed rate of $26.66, that's very competitive with what other counties are paying, larger in size and similar in size. If you look at just the school systems, Williamson County would be at $26.44 and for RNs, and Hamilton County would be at $25.68. So here again, Hamilton County School System would be paying less per hour than Rutherford County would be, and they're currently the third largest county in the state. So I think it would keep you marketable as far as recruiting nursing staff, because there are some fringe benefits that come along with being a nurse for a school system. You know, you have spring break, fall break, Christmas break, summer break, no weekends, no nights. There are some definite advantages. Not that they don't have a hard job to do in their day-to-day. I'm not discounting what they do on a daily basis, but there are some benefits that come along with that as well. So, are there any questions?
All right, we like hiring RNs.
Correct.
Do you think this proposed rate that we are, if it's adopted, do you think we could attract those RNs?
I believe you could. We're still attracting RNs at our health department, which is, you know, the operating hours are similar to what a school system would be, but is different. You know, the clientele and what they deal with is a little bit different than what you would have in a school system when you're dealing with the children. Not only that, but working in a school has some reasons to be attracted. If you had somebody who wanted to have a similar schedule, maybe you have a parent who has school-age kids and they want to have the same, you know, days off and holidays and those type things, that's a benefit to them. Somebody who's going to be in the nursing field who is wanting to work private pay, obviously that's going to be different in a hospital even than a doctor's office. A doctor's office is not going to pay the same as a hospital. So I think that you could attract people, and I would probably guess that some of the individuals that you have that are in your nursing are also maybe working additional jobs in the summer at some of these private pay places if they so choose. So I do believe that you would continue to be marketable based on that hourly rate of $26.66. Are there any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, motion to approve the proposed salary schedule for nurses with grandfathered terms listed above. In other words, those that this would not take effect to anyone hired after July 1 of 2021. Anybody hired part-time, full-time, they'd stay on their schedule right now. The only ones that would change, and it would be on August 31st, 2021, anyone that came in after that time. Like I said, I think we got 54 now. Right now, we don't have any openings. Is that correct, Mr. Bodary?
We have one that is not currently open. It's one that will be leaving at the end of the school year, and of course, then we'll recruit for next year. But no, sir, besides that, we have none.
All right, motion to approve the proposed salary schedule for school nurses with the grandfathered terms listed above as presented.
All right, any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I've got several questions, actually. I guess I would like to, first of all, understand, because obviously what we're doing is we're proposing that we're going to lower the pay rate for new nurses that we hire into the system. So, and I understand we're grandfathering the current nurses, but I guess it would help me to understand a little history behind this as to why this even got proposed to begin with.
Yeah, I think we did bring that up. We get less than $1 million for our nurses. We spend close to $4 million for our nurses. We don't want to cut anyone's salary. The BEP has been looked at for probably a decade now about increasing the funding. It got cut again this year. We've done a pretty good job with our money in our system, but we don't want any drop off on quality. And I think that's the reason why we had Ms. Stevenson come here to talk about, because that's very important. I actually talked to her about our medically fragile kids, and we all agreed that RN is necessary. I've talked to several nurses that had tried to get on here were RN. Unfortunately, they didn't have a bachelor's. They did it because they sought employment because it has its perks. I mean, you don't work nights, you don't work weekends, you don't work holidays, and you're off on inclement weather days. And you're with your child, basically. Now you can go out and do all that and make $100,000 a year. But like Ms. Stevenson said, the perks come with it. Our thing is, as we look at our mission is empower today's students to grasp tomorrow's opportunities. We are education, and we don't have a plethora of money. We use our money wisely, and we've got to make sure as we invest in our kids that we invest in those areas that go toward meeting our mission. So we're not trying to upset the apple cart or trying to say that by the way, we have some of the best nurses that you could ever have in our system. Very passionate about what they do, and we don't want to do anything with them. But keep in mind, some of us won't be here in the next 4, 5, 6 years. So we've got to look not just at the now, but look at the future.
So how much, and maybe Mr. Bodery can speak to this, if we're not going to change any of the current nurses' pay, what kind of calculations have been done to determine, what are you anticipating this is actually going to save the board versus, because it's really not even that big of a difference. You're talking $27.43 an hour, but I'm assuming that's an average because surely an RN that's working in the school system that's been with us for 2 years that has an equitable degree or level of expertise or whatever versus a nurse that's been in our system now for 15 years are not making the same salary.
Let me help you. They're on a teacher salary, okay? They're on a teacher salary which caps at 16 years, and it's a bachelor's and a master's. Of course, that's all you get in nursing. So it is capped. Now, you asked a great question about what are we anticipating of saving. Like me and perhaps you, and me and you, and I'll leave you out of this, Bratton, probably looking at retirement for too long. We've got a large pool of nurses that hit the 25 to 38 years of experience. So this is not something that's going to happen overnight, but through attrition, the board, whoever is sitting on this board, probably 5, 6 years from now, will see some reduction in that area. And keep in mind, we'll continue to grow. If nothing else, it will be negligible in terms of what we save to what we're adding.
How many of these 54 nurses are RNs and how many LPNs do we have?
We've got 2 LPNs. One is full-time. Is that right, Doug?
That's correct.
And one is a PRN. One is a fill-in nurse, right?
Sir.
Okay. Everyone else is either got a BSN. I think we may have 3 or 4 MSNs.
Several with master's degrees.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yes. Do we have a full-time nurse at every one of our schools?
Yes,
We do.
We don't have any other part-time that they share up on the north end?
We've got 54 nurses in how many buildings? 50 buildings?
We have 51 nurses and we have 49 schools fixing to be 50, but the one's virtual.
Yeah, gotcha.
Have we already budgeted for Plainview? Is it already in the numbers?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. One of the concerns that I've heard from many of our school nurses, and I've had a conversation with Mr. Spurlock, but want some clarification publicly, we are not getting rid of our RNs to replace with LPNs. So
Absolutely not.
Ms. Moore's point, because of the average that this is,
Absolutely.
our level of care for our students is not going to be diminished.
You asked a great question, and this is the conversation me and Ms. Stevenson had. And as we talked about, I said, we have a lot of medically fragile students that need that. And she said, yeah, you're right, you need to keep your RNs. And I said, that's what we want to do. We don't want to hire LPNs because you know, we have a huge task ahead of us, you know, and our kids and our parents deserve the best. And we feel like, and quite frankly, I'll tell you, I mean, I think we got a great nursing staff now, and I don't want, but I think what we can still maintain that quality, but there's those perks that come along with it, you know, that can attract. I'll be honest with you, I had a daughter-in-law that would love to work in the system, but she, you know, she had an associate's degree, and I know we got a board member who knows someone that wanted to be a. Am I right, Mr. Estes? Didn't at one time, you know, we don't want to do anything but provide good service, and we want to make sure that we're doing that in a way that's equitable as far as funding is concerned. And like I said, we definitely don't want to take away from anyone's salary. Absolutely not.
Well, can I ask one question here? I've listened to all of this, and I understand, and this makes sense budget-wise, but coming from a CDC classroom where we did, every year I was there, we had at least one really severely medically fragile. What are we prepared, because things change. You don't know who's going to show up one year to next, come to your school. What if you have two? It was all that one nurse at Riverdale could do. And I want to tell you, she spent at least 3 hours a day down in L Hall with feeding tubes, with, you know, what do we do if we've got 2 or 3 children like
Well,
that?
you
One
know,
nurse won't do.
That's a great question there. One of the things that Ms. Winters and Mr. Bowdry and I talked about is we've got to be we've got to make sure that we're looking at that load. You know, like for example, and it's no one's fault. However, you may have one nurse at school A that doesn't have that many people. That's where we've got to do a better job. We've got to make sure we address the need where the need is, and it may be at 1.5, you know, or something.
Similar to when I was there, I learned the term one-on-one.
Yeah.
That was for that child that literally needed somebody there with him all the time. He might run off, he might he might hurt himself, not any fault of his own, but he needed someone there. Well, there have been children that almost medically needed a one-on-one nurse because that nurse had to spend so much time. I just want to make sure that we can, because unfortunately the numbers are not going to go down.
No.
In the next couple of years, we're going to get even more and more of these children. And
Right.
I want us to make sure that Rutherford County is prepared to do what we have to do.
You know, you brought up a good point too. If you look at this, and yes, it is a lot more than just a few dollars on an hour when you look at it, but this would open the doors for us to do that more because of the cost would be less impactful. You know, you see what I'm saying? And I think one of the biggest things is we want to make sure that, you know, we don't have schools like that are understaffed in that area.
I know this has been something we've been fighting ever since I've been on this board, is unfunded mandates. And this is what this is. It's an unfunded mandate. We're mandated to have these nurses, but they don't provide the money with it.
Just to give you a case in point, and Mr. Bowdry talked to you about this in terms of funding of our how we're funding it locally. So you're talking about $3 to $4 million. So you're talking about 3 to 4 cents on the tax levy, 4 cents on the tax levy. That our local taxpayers, and not to say that they don't want, but the local taxpayers are paying 4 cents to fund, you know, our nurses. 4 cents on the tax levy, additional cents on the tax levy.
Mr. Chairman, I have another question because there's another really complete section to this motion that we're getting ready to vote on tonight that in addition to the salary structure change, and that is the last paragraph or the last sentence where it says, additionally, any currently active school nurse that stays on the grandfathered salary schedule has until August 31st, 2021, this year, to receive a step-up in pay for any new college degrees awarded by that date and recognized on the current salary schedule for a salary increase. So I need to understand that a little better, too. Yeah. Does that mean, please let me finish my question. Mm-hmm. Does that mean that there will no longer be any step-up pay for changes in new college degrees awarded to the new nurses or to the current ones after
It does
August?
not. And let me explain that, and if you're finished with your question.
I am.
Okay, let me explain. We do have a person that is going to, number one, going from part-time to full-time, and we have a person that is going to be receiving their bachelor's degree. So what we did is we thought, since they're already employed by us, that we would allow them to be grandfathered in. Anyone that is in the pay structure now would not change. It maxes out at 16 years. If someone is on the 12th year, they will continue to go through those until they max out.
If I may, anybody else? I think because later on in the agenda, we've given our bus drivers raises, we've given our substitute teachers raises. We're looking at giving our teachers a substantial raise, and they deserve it. And for us to cut the nursing salary for the potential things that might come up or might happen when we're probably not going to be sitting on the board, I think is going to tie the hands for the future board members. And I think that this is something that probably needs to be tabled to either look more into this. I actually got a list of procedures that our school does. And I think for the benefit of the public, because if your child is not involved in any of these procedures, it's seamless to them. They don't know that we have teachers that are calculating insulin, sometimes twice a day for students. Their carb calculations for diabetics, their blood glucose testing for diabetics, tube feedings by syringe or feeding pump, urinary catheterization, ostomy care. And for one who had an ostomy for 3 years, I'm going to tell you, it's really hard. And it's really hard for a student. There's a big learning curve. There's oxygen level. We have students who are on ventilators and track and blood pressure checks. And every nurse that is at the school has to write up a chart on every student in that school. And so not only are they doing all these procedures every day, at the end of the day, they're charting just like a regular nurse does. So I'm afraid if we do something like this and we back into this cut and pay, it is going to stop people from coming here. And these teachers, these nurses are the only ones that see students without their parents there. I bet everybody here has gone to the doctor with their child. These nurses see students without their parents there. That's how much they're trusted.
So that we're not, I know this is going out to everyone, we are not cutting our nurses' pay. Those nurses will get the same raise that if the board votes on it and the commission funds it, we'll get the same raise as our teachers, our classified. Not going to be any different. The only thing we're asking is going forward through attrition and growth. And quite frankly, I think it's a slap in the face to say that someone who wants to have the weekends off, the nights off, the vacation days, the so forth, is not as qualified as a current school nurse. I don't think our nurses would say that. I think our nurses work with some of them. One of the things Ms. Stevenson brought up, we do have some, Ms. Stevenson, we do have some nurses that do things on the weekend. They work, make good money, so I don't think we're doing anything to eliminate the quality. We wouldn't want to do anything to eliminate the quality. Ultimately, it's this board that will make that decision, and I'll shut up and let you go at it.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question, and we may have already touched this, and this might be a Mr. Bodery question. How many nursing positions are paid for through the BEP?
We receive, in our VP this year, we received $888,418 for 15 nursing positions. Of course, what we just said, we have the 54 funded full-time positions. And that total, what we're budgeting this current fiscal year for benefits and salary for our nurses is $4,323.83. when you subtract out what the state is funding this for nurses, that leaves $3,434,665 on the local taxpayers of Rutherford County for nursing services. Like Mr. Spurlock has said already, every year for at least a decade, there's been a bill in front of our state legislature to more adequately fund school nurses, and just like this year, just like the last year's, it has been tabled and it's died.
Thank you. And then, Ms. Stevenson, I have a question for you as well. Ms. Sharp brings up a very good point about the level of service and level of care that our nurses are providing. In your comparison of numbers that you've already presented to the board, I'm sorry. In the numbers that you've presented to the board in comparison, are their counterparts, is it fair to assume or state that those that you have compared this to are performing those same services?
So when I looked at the other school systems, I would say, yes, I would say that Hamilton County Schools is doing the same services that Rutherford County Schools would be doing. Likewise, City of Murfreesboro or Williamson County, any of those would be. When I looked at the others that are just the counties, then you're talking about the health departments, and the health departments will do all different kinds of services in addition to the services that maybe the schools do. I would say that the community care and the nursing home facilities are absolutely doing those same tasks on a daily basis in a nursing home facility. You've got people there for all different types of conditions, all ages, and so to say catheterization and other things that you guys are doing in their feeding tubes would absolutely be something that a nursing home would be doing. So those things I would say are very similar in nature. So yes.
But they are on a different, those nurses community care or the comparables to our nurses, they would be working weekends, they would be on call, they would be working holidays.
They'd be working nights. They may be working, from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. the next morning, holidays, weekends. It snows, it doesn't matter, you come in. COVID, it doesn't matter, you're there. So things that would shut down a school system would not shut down a nursing home. Things that would shut down a school don't necessarily shut down our county health department either. All through COVID, our county health department's been open and actually the front line addressing all those issues. So there's definitely some benefits in this position. And I'm not, if I represented that the school nurses are not, working hard and taking care of everybody, I apologize for that in advance, or after the fact. I just think that there are some benefits to being a school nurse that maybe we haven't considered. And I think it was, I don't have my sheet with me, but for 22 cents less per hour, that's not, in my mind, not a big ask, especially when in comparison that it's more than what other people in similar roles are being paid.
Do you know in your comparison with the other systems how many RNs they currently have? Is this comparable? And I don't answer this question at this point, but do all school systems that you've looked at, or do you even know, do they employ as many RNs as we're employing?
It would be a guess on my part, but it would be a guess, and I would think that it would be a requirement under state law that they have so many per school or per school system. I don't know if it's one-on-one, but I would find it hard to believe that it would not be an RN per school, but it would be a guess on my part.
Thank you.
Does anyone know the answer to that question?
What was the question?
I certainly think we should.
What was the question?
Do we know the comparison of RNs to other systems that we're comparing us to? What number of RNs or LPNs do they employ in their systems?
Yeah, Doug, you might want to speak on
Williamson.
Actually, more importantly, if I may, is there a state requirement as to RNs per school?
No, there's numerous. That's one thing when we looked, there was numerous larger districts with LPNs, but as well. Murfreesboro City Schools has LPNs on their pay scale. That's one reason we were looking at comparison with other larger districts. We allowed to have an LPN if the nursing director decided, hey, you might have an LPN that is a very highly skilled, that could work under an RN. But to answer your question with, yes, Williamson County, all RNs. So and they have them each for every school. So it is what we were looking at, we were comparing apples and apples when we were looking at the salary study comparison.
Thank you.
So if I may, just one more thing, and to kind of sum this up, obviously, it goes without saying, it's very clear that this isn't going to impact our current nurses financially, which I certainly appreciate. But I know it was also mentioned a little earlier that out of the 54 nurses we have, that apparently we have a significant number that are nearing retirement age, or that we think might be leaving.
Wouldn't use age.
Okay,
I'd be
well,
experienced.
retirement years of service, how's
Yeah,
that?
experience.
Which does make it a matter of recruiting down the road. And with all due respect, Ms. Henderson, I know she has extensive HR and recruiting background, which I certainly appreciate and respect, but for whatever it's worth, I also, like Ms. Johnson, have spoken to a number of our nurses, and several of the ones that I have spoken with have some years of experience with the system. And they do seem to have some concern that it could present problems down the road from a recruiting standpoint. And I'm concerned too, I guess, about the message that it sends. Again, back really kind of to Ms. Sharp's point about the raises and not questioning at all that our bus drivers or that our teachers or anybody else that are going to get hopefully fairly significant raises this year are not worth it. But when you look at this and the flip side, and we're talking about reducing nurses' salaries moving forward, I worry about the message too. So I'll stop with this, that I'm not prepared to vote on this tonight, and if we do vote on the motion, I will be voting against it.
Any other questions or discussion? Ms. Sharp, would you make a motion to table this, or
I will make a motion to table this until further.
do we have a second for the? Second. All right, so we have a second table. All right. Ms. Hopkins, would you like to call roll?
Ms. Maxwell? Yes. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Sharp?
Yes.
Ms. Bratton?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
No.
Mr. Estes?
No.
Mr. Young?
No. Four, three, motion passes.
Can we, to have for May 25th, bring it back on the May 25th? Is that early enough for you, Mr. Botering?
I don't know that we should bring it back. I mean, I don't know what else we can do with what we've presented. It would be my suggestion that we just leave it alone.
That's fine with me.
All right. Number two.
All right, number two. Let me get back to my paper here. All right. Okay. All right. Number two, the centralized cafeteria fund 143 for the 2021-22 budget. Centralized cafeteria fund 143 for the 2021-2022 budget has $21,122,000 in revenues and $21,805,577 in expenditures, and it uses the $683,577 of fund balance to fund the cafeterias. Before I get to the motion, next time Mr. Smith is going to come and present to the board, when the board voted for them for us to centralize the cafeteria fund, he has done a fabulous job. Doug sent this to me today, he got from Mr. Smith, about looking at how efficient our cafeterias are. He's got it broken down, and I told him to come in and show it to you guys to see what we're getting out of that. He's got it broken down by meals per hour, and he's got it categorized. Those that are serving more meals per hour than staff, which they need additional staff, those that are doing it right with the amount of staff, and those that are kind of overstaffed. So once again, it's a type of evaluation looking at saving money, because we do know that as a public entity, depends on our local to fund us. We do everything we can to make sure that we're getting the most out of our money. But I can't say enough good things. I don't want to spoil his presentation, but he's done a great job under these trying times. Motion to approve the centralized cafeteria fund 143 for the 2021-22 budget as presented.
Any questions?
Oh, did I hear today that we have the free lunch until the end of next year? Has that been
That's
announced?
exactly right, we do. Doug, is it June 30th of next year?
Yes, sir, it goes through next year, so and of course, we'll have it in the summertime next year, so we have another year.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. Have a second? Ms. Braden? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Right, number 3.
All right, number 3 is the Capital Projects Fund 177 budget for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. Educational Capital Projects Fund 177 for fiscal year 2021-2022. The budget has $7,733,917 in estimated revenues and $7,733,917 in estimated expenditures. Current property tax levy is 7.5 cents, is adequate to fund the identified priority capital improvements in this proposed budget. Recommend motion to approve the 2021-22 Capital Projects Fund 177 budget as presented.
Any questions? Do we have a motion? Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. Do we have a second?
A second.
Ms. Bratton? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 4.
All right, number 4, before we, this is our expenditures part of our budget. We know that we have not received the BEP estimate, April estimate. We should be getting it next week. I think, Doug, we have some online training next week with Mary Ann Dursky. Do you think, do you anticipate we'll get it then?
I hope we have. They are very short-staffed up in that department right now, so I know she's hoping to get it to us by this next week.
The commissioner, when I asked her last Friday, that she said it would be either at the end of April or the 1st of May. Now, the hold harmless is moving along fine so far, but if you want to reach out to your state rep and encourage them to continue on, we really would like that. I think it would solve a lot of problems. Doug, you got something?
Yes, sir. It's that hold harmless. It is on the House Bill 777. It's on regular calendar for vote on 4/28/21. The state Senate recommended it for passage this just a couple days ago.
That's great news. Great news.
Do we have any feel at all for where our reps do stand on it?
I think they're for it.
Okay,
The
I would
ones
have thought so
that's about.
too, based on,
And by the way, I really appreciate our state reps this year. They stood up for a lot of things that we've needed. So kudos to them. Getting back to this also, today, Mr. Bodery, I think this afternoon, got the estimates on an increase on our insurance, our health insurance.
That's great.
If you guys will approve this, now it's going to change a little bit, but not dramatically on the expenditure side, because there will be some variance on what you currently got in that 141 as far as the line item.
For insurance.
Yeah,
Yes,
for insurance only.
that's
Yeah.
correct.
But Doug's got back, I guess it's 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon, brought that in and it went enough turnaround time. But what we do need is just the expenditure side with some variance so that next Thursday we can take this to and share it with the health and ed. Now, they won't be voting on it, but we'll be sharing that expenditure with them.
Did you say you got what the health insurance was gonna?
Yes, ma'am. We'll go over that on the insurance part of the agenda. Yes, ma'am.
On this right here, and I'm going to go ahead and read this, if no one has any objection. It says, Interpurpose School Fund for the 2021-2022 budget has an estimated amount of money waiting with the state April BEP estimate in revenues, $437,984,423, with the understanding there may be a little bit of variance there in these expenditures because of the health insurance. And it uses an unknown at this time due to lack of state April BEP estimate fund balance for school operation expenditures. This proposed expenditure budget provides certified classified employees and a 5% increase by RCS bus contractors.
Doug Bogery. You, for those of us who do this, you've done it so many different ways, and I've told you before, you've done an excellent job with it. So when I propose this, I want you to remember that. Okay? I'd like to make an amendment to this budget that we give our employees certified, classified, 5% increase. We give our bus drivers a 5% increase. Then we need to do it across the board.
Any other?
I agree. Yeah.
How long would it take Mr. Bowery to put those numbers together for us to show us what the total bottom line cost would be?
We got
Doing
it.
that?
Do you have it in here?
Yes, sir, it's on the, this is the same as when we went through it on the, you have in front of you, improvement summary.
Is it on, what page
It's
is
the-
it on, Doug? Okay, on 141?
It's at the top.
What I'm looking at right here is, it's on your packet for Fund 141. If you turn to the second page right behind the highlights, it has a budget improvement summary. This is the page I'm looking at right here, the second page. And if you walk down at the top of that page under fixed costs and mandated changes, you see under that, it's just at the very bottom of that, it has the, as I was requested before the budget workshop, to allow the board to see what would be the difference if we did a 3%, a 4%, or a 5%. And as you can see, that 4% increase, it would increase the $17,336,262 is the estimate
Or 5%.
for a 5% over and above.
That's everything.
That's all 5%.
So that's everything, Doug, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. It's everything. That's the increase of FICA, retirement contribution, that's everything.
So Ms. Bratton, you made a motion, and we also had a second. Any other questions, discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
He needs to write, you need to write that into the, yeah. we
Yes,
probably-
sir,
we need to write
I'll have that.
into, the,
I'm going to, can you give, did they vote to amend this, sir?
they voted to amend it to represent a 5%, but what I'm saying, it needs to be written in.
Oh, yes, sir, I will
talking about-
change, yeah.
Are you writing all that down? I mean, the amendment for, okay. And that would also go on this budget, I mean, on this item too, right?
Yes, sir, I'll correct the detailed budget to that, to spread it across the lines.
All right, motion to approve the amended 2021-22 General Purpose School Fund 141 expenditure budget as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add something to the budget too. Over the last week or so, I've talked to, excuse me, all the schools that graduate at MTSU. I spoke with all of them's principal, and out of the 9 schools that graduated at MTSU, 7 of them want to keep having graduation on their football field. 2 of them didn't, and both schools had a very good reason, but they'd like to stay at MTSU, which that would be their choice. But what I would like to see this board do is to put in some money to buy a stage and some chairs, so these schools wouldn't have to spend $6,000 to $8,000 a year. Now, what I propose to the principals is they would every year would pay a fee for the use of that stage and chairs, and that money would go in a fund for replacement and repair of that equipment.
Right now, Mr. Estes, I think I talked to you about that, I don't know when it was, but we currently do give this, I think it's almost close to $60,000, if I'm not mistaken, Doug. Am I wrong on that?
That is about $42,000, just over 42 for when we send down our board appropriation.
That's what they used to rent, they used to use to rent MTSU and stuff.
That's
We would
correct,
get that
sir.
Part of graduate.
That's what
You know,
they
I think there's enough money already in our budget to do that.
Yes,
To
if
do
that-
that. Now, one of the things that you talked to me about is where would we house it? Where would we put it? And you mentioned the Kittrell.
Old Kittrell Gym.
Then Doug heard me say that, and Doug, you want to respond what you said to me when I said the Kittrell, who was it? It was Trey, okay, Trey, sorry about that.
Kitchell Gym is not an option. That building is in fairly bad shape. We're Band-Aiding it, keeping it together, and it's full of furniture. I say full, we surplus each year. But it would not, I would not recommend that we try and use that building there. I have another option.
So when you say 42,000 for MTSU, is that per graduation, or was that grand total when we were
For
holding?
graduation.
We were
Or what-
spending that anyway.
Each school gets a portion of that. Some that have a larger, portion than others. But each one of them gets a portion of that 42,000.
So it's split.
That's what I'm kind of wondering, back to your comment about we may have it in the budget, would that not,
Yeah, I think so.
if we're going to move away from MTSU, would that not cover?
Yeah, I think it
Asbestos is
does.
talking about?
I think the biggest problem was, and it was, they had to rent these additional chairs and stuff like that, so they paid a little bit out, but one of the things that Central Magnet in Oakland did, or not, Central Magnet and Siegel did, if you'll recall, they both had it, of course, on Siegel, but they went in on that stage, renting that stage and chairs, so they shared the cost and got it a little bit cheaper. I think you may have told me how much one of those stages would cost.
The cost one, I would say that for what would work for the school would be in the neighborhood of $20,000.
20,000?
I guess.
Now, you can get them up to $60,000 and $70,000, but they're like concert stages.
Right. And that's with the ramps and all that stuff.
Right.
I agree with Mr. Estes, because having attended a number of graduations last year, there was some that were very nice and there were some that were not nice. The problem with that, Mr. Estes, would be, don't we have a couple graduations that are on the same day?
Right.
One's earlier in the day and one's at night?
You're right, we may have one or two, but I think one of them may be, like, the only two that I know that are not doing outside is Eagleville and Holloway.
They're on the
Holloway.
same night.
Are they on the same night?
Yeah, but Holloway's normally, in the past, has always done theirs at the church
It
down
is.
there in Smyrna, and then Eagleville's, I think, in their
In their gym.
gym. So I guess that would beg the question to me too, though, if we're just going to buy one, what are the transportation costs involved in moving a piece
Say a
of?
lot.
Yeah,
That's the
want to
big
limit it
thing,
to just
right?
one.
Well, and I would say and I don't know that this is the case, but just doing events and things that it's at the end of the year, and that school may have already gone through some of that cash money that they've had. So we do need to look at something that's saving our money and, versus renting and the chairs and things like that. I agree with Mr.
Yeah,
Estes.
the graduation money is allocated, it's not touched, but you're right. I think if we could invest, I guess the biggest thing is my concern, I'm the same way, I don't know how you haul that back and forth in one day turnaround.
Could we get a sponsorship from one of the,
That's a possibility.
because it's huge, setting up those chairs, because I do weddings and setting up chairs for the parents, setting up chairs, even if you have the grandstands. There's a lot of schlepping involved in it. And, I agree with Mr. Estes. It does make sense to own that equipment.
Would the board be amenable to have Mr. Lee search out cost on these items and bring it back to us on the May 4th meeting? Was that enough time for you?
Yes, sir, I can do that.
When's our first graduation again?
May 10th?
May 10th, yeah.
And
I don't know that we're going to be able to purchase them this year, but this would be a purchase for next year.
Right.
Yeah.
To get us ready for that. The second thing we need to look at, we don't have to look at it immediately, but it's where we're going to store it. That is a key component. I don't think Kittrell Gym, and I can tell you right now, none of the schools have any storage area.
did you have another alternative for us?
Do those trailers?
We do have one, and that's a possibility. I need to look at how they transport them so that I can get an idea of how that works. Like I said, let me do a little research. It's a possibility we could buy a 65-foot, what we call a Connex. It's one of those boxes that sit on the ground, that's storage trailer. So it may be something like that, and if we had something like that, that it's stored with the right system in it, that you could just move the box from place to place, then you're not picking it up at School X, putting it on a truck, taking it back off a truck, putting it back in a truck. If you could put it in a container and move the container from place to place, I think the wear and tear would be less.
That's an excellent idea.
So I'll have something when we come back.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Okay, so we still have the motion on the table here for number 4.
Thought we were done.
Pardon?
Did we vote for that? We've already voted for that.
Well, we voted to amend to 5%, but now we need to vote on the motion itself.
All right, the General Purpose School Fund 2021-22 budget has an estimated dollars waiting on the state April BEP estimate in revenues of $437,984,423 in expenditures, and uses unknown dollars due to the lack of the April BEP estimate of fund balance for school operation expenditures. For the new school board members, we have, I guess, for several years now, having it go into our ending fund balance. What did we average the last 3 years, Doug? Do you know by any chance right offhand?
I'd have to look, but last year's,
I remember my first year, we went in 15 million.
that's what we did last year, you said.
Is that we did 15 last year also? Okay. And of course, on this one, would it be amended to represent knowing the variance in the health insurance and also the 5%? Instead of 3%, it would be 5% increase for all RCS certified and classified employees and a 5% increase for the Rutherford County School bus contractors. Motion to approve this 2021-2022 General Purpose School Fund Fund 141 expenditure budget as presented.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Everybody clear?
I have a question. Since it's an amended with the 5%, I don't know if we do or not. Do we need to change this 437
Those
million?
numbers would change, yes, ma'am.
Right. Do we need to change that in our motion?
Doug, you want to give me a number on that?
You might, I would just drop the number at this point, because just to say with the 5%, amended,
Yes.
amended with 5% and the small adjustment with
With the health.
health insurance, since we've moved these numbers.
Is that legal, Mr. Reed? We're good there?
Yeah, I think you want your motion to be to approve the budget as amended for the health insurance issues and as amended with the 5% increase for both the employees and the bus contractors. So the motion would be to approve the budget as amended for the health insurance items and as amended tonight for the 5% increase for all employees and bus contractors.
I think those contractors are already in there at 5%, weren't they?
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know that that's been amended.
You already voted on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, any questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Ms. Johnson, Ms. Maxwell, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 5.
Number 5, motion to authorize cash on hand for Plainview Elementary cafeteria operations. With the opening of Plainview Elementary School in the fall of 2021, cash on hand to make change needs to be authorized for the school cafeteria operations. The school nutrition department is requesting $40 to be authorized as the initial amount for cash on hand for the Plainview Elementary cafeteria. A listing of current cash on hand balances at RCS cafeterias, including the proposed amount for Plainview Elementary cafeteria, is presented to the board for review. Motion to approve the $40 for cash on hand for Plainview Elementary cafeteria operations.
Any questions?
Second.
I'm sorry, who made the motion? Ms. Moore and Ms. Sharp second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 6.
All right, before we get started, number 6, we're not taking any money away from anyone. We're actually adding some money, and we're changing from hourly to salary. So is this a motion to adopt the RCS cafeteria manager's salary pay schedule to begin July 1 of 2021? To better align RCS cafeteria manager pay structure with comparable school districts in our current cafeteria manager job descriptions, a salary pay scale is presented to replace the current hourly pay rate. This change aligns with RCS with other comparable Middle Tennessee school districts and recognizes the supervisor role, our school nutrition department, and cafeteria managers. Doug, you want to speak on that handout that you have right there?
As you can see with there's a one-page handout which shows the proposed pay salary structure for cafeteria managers. We looked at comparable sized districts, and what we did, as Mr. Clark said, what we discovered was basically most of the districts have already gone to a salary schedule instead of an hourly rate for their cafeteria managers, recognizing that's a professional management position. How we have this laid out is, as you see on the top row, you have a cafeteria manager elementary position, and it's showing on the top the years of experience: 0 through 2, 3 through 5 years, 6 through 9 years, 10 through 14, 15 through 19 years of experience, 20 to 24, and 25. This is the same steps that we have that they're under currently right now. The elementary cafeteria manager would be very competitive. It's actually slightly higher than what Murfreesboro City Schools is paying their elementary school cafeterias.
Let me ask you real quick on that. Let's talk about this. If we break this down in hourly wages, is this the same? Is it more? Or is it less?
It's more. Okay. Yes, sir.
That's
it's more.
What I want to know.
Yes, sir.
It was more. How much more?
It is a couple $1,000s more a year for our elementary school cafeteria managers.
Okay.
Once again, to recognize, wants to bring them in alignment with the going rate for a cafeteria manager. We looked at we checked with the hourly, the cafeteria employees as well, but we're very comparative when it comes to that. We're actually over a little bit with some districts, so we really wanted to focus in on those managers, which basically and I'm not, like I said, I don't want to steal Mr. Smith's thunder next time, because you're going to see these cafeteria managers are doing quite a bit of work. But what this does is it aligns us with other districts, and as you can see on the second and third row of the salary schedule, we recognize a $500 bump, basically $500 more a year if you are a cafeteria manager at a middle school or you are assigned a satellite site. So we have a few schools that do not have, the actual ovens and everything in there, and we have cafeteria managers that go to those schools from their home school to serve those children. Then the next row below that is the high schools, and once again we'll talk about that next meeting. There's quite a bit going on in a high school, so we recognize that with another $500 increase a year in this salary. That's how we arrived at that.
Motion to adopt the new RCS cafeteria manager salary pay scale to begin on July 1 of 2021 as presented.
Any questions? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Ms. Moore made the motion. Ms. Maxwell second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 13.
Number 13, facilities, found on tab 6, request for Wilson Elementary excess property sale. Rutherford County Schools has been approached to possibly sell 15 acres of excess property to the family of the original owner as per TCA Title 49-6, 2006, powers of school board to buy, sell, acquire by gift or transfer. The Board of Education is authorized to receive donations of money, property, and securities from the source of this benefit of the public schools, which it funds shall be in good faith, dispersed in accordance with the conditions of the gifts. Options are for a public sale or a negotiated sale per TCA 49-62006-3C1. Motion to approve by a public sale or a negotiated sale for this 15 or so acres at Wilson Elementary as presented. I guess the motion would need to clarify what the board wants to do, whether a negotiated sale or by auction.
And I guess we do have the choice, or if we want to. Okay. I was understanding we did not have the choice. I thought it had to be a public auction, but.
You have the choice. The only thing you have to do is the 30 days, you got to post that in the newspaper. You know, you can't sell it to someone. You got to post.
It's like taking bids.
Yeah.
We'd say we're going to take bids for this acreage on this day, post it, and then we would review the bids on that day.
We better let Mr.
Yeah.
Mr. Reeves.
Yeah, you either route you go on this, you have to go through a publication notice process, as Mr. Spurlock was talking about. That would give the public, everyone in the public who has an interest in bidding on this property, a chance to bid on the project. If you want to have a fully vetted public auction of this property to make sure it has been fully advertised, the public auction route is probably the safer route to go, to make sure that everyone who wants to have a fair chance to buy this property has a fair chance to buy it, and no one questions anything behind the scenes with respect to how the bids are handled or anything like that. So I think if you want to give more public input in regards to the auction, I would do an auction of it as opposed to a public sale by private means. So if you do an auction, there'll be an auctioneer involved with it. There'll be some auction fees. They charge an advertising fee, and some of that will be associated with that. You can, at the auction, make the buyer, if you want to, pay the auction fee. That's oftentimes done at the auction, where the buyer pays the auction fee.
Premium, right. Yeah. Any questions for Mr. Reed? Sure.
But it's not for Mr. Reed. And maybe forget, we've spoken about this before, but how much do we speculate the land is worth? What value could it be as dollars to our system? I don't remember.
I'm going to go off current pricing, kind of in that area. That it's somewhere between 20 and 30,000 an acre would be what I would think. It could potentially go higher. There is no sewer there available, so they would have to be able to build their own sewer system, which would limit some of the property that would be usable, depending upon what they're planning. If they're not planning on developing it, it's all usable for. It's being farmed right now.
So I have a question, and the only reason we're even entertaining the idea of selling this property is because the family who we bought it from has come back and asked us if we would liquidate that asset, right? Am I mistaken?
That is correct.
So we can't do a private sale with them. We now had to put it out publicly and have an auction. So now the family's going to have to compete to purchase back that property.
Correct. But they have the same opportunity as everyone else.
Right. Thank you.
Well, that and the fact that I think we did discuss before too, that it really isn't enough for us to be able to do anything with, or that the school system would really have a future use for, that we would want to hang on to it, correct? Or,
That is my opinion, yes, ma'am. Based on where our sewer system is and the way it's laid out, it's too small for another elementary, it's too small for a middle school. It's on the wrong side of the sewer for an annex addition. It would be too far from Wilson Elementary. I mean, basically for us to use for a facility other than maybe a storage facility, if we wanted to build a 20,000 square foot warehouse or something on it, but it'd be out on the wrong side of town. But, so to answer your question is,
That's what I was going to say. You'd be-
we've looked at it from our perspective, and it's land that we're not going to be able to utilize in the future for us.
The biggest portion of it was in a floodplain, is that correct?
Yeah, that's why I've got 15 plus or minus. There's a section that's across Angie Drive, a small triangle, if you look at the drawing that was with it. That's actually a detention basin, low area, holds water. So, I mean, even part of that's not going to be, to them, would not be that usable. So, it could be 14 acres. I mean, that's why I've got plus or minus. We have not had it surveyed. I'm using Google Earth. Didn't want to expend any dollars, for surveys or anything like that till we were for sure what y'all wanted to do.
All right, any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I so move.
I'll second Sheila. She beat me.
Okay. Is that motion to public auction, or
Yes.
is that what you're?
Yes.
We're going to say? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Request name circular.
Request to name the circular drive at Smyrna Elementary. Board Member Tammy Sharp is making a request to name the circular drive at Smyrna Elementary School Helen Johns Hall Drive. The Johns family has long, rich history of public servants in the town of Smyrna. Mrs. Hall was a teacher for Rutherford County Schools for over 40 years. Before retirement and passing, she taught at Smyrna Elementary. I have spoken with the current principal, Ms. Ritter, and she is amenable to honoring the longtime former teacher in this manner. Engineering and Construction has no objection to this request. Motion to approve the naming of the circular drive to Helen Johns Hall Drive as presented.
Any questions?
is Helen spelled correctly?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, I have verified that with 2 family members, her brother and one of her daughters.
And this is not something, Mr. Lee, that requires, like when we were talking about the naming of the street at Plainview, that requires any kind of city or county?
No, ma'am, this is an internal drive. It is not a public, we use it, but it's not a public thoroughfare, so we can name it. We don't have to go to 911 or anything like
Right,
that.
oh, that's what I was thinking, yeah. Thank you.
It's not an address.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. And what, if any, expenses associated with this?
The only expense would be probably to purchase a sign that says Helen Johns Hall. We've got some signs on order, but, maybe $50.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
So move.
All right, Ms. Sharp made the motion, and Ms. Maxwell, you second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, emergency request.
All right, this is an emergency request for a unit purchase for Holloway High School gym. Holloway High School gym is operating at 25% HVAC capacity at this time. They have a 10-ton unit without a compressor ordered, and a 20-ton unit is no longer operable. Maintenance has one quote for a 20-ton replacement unit for the amount of $59,551.57. Request to authorize maintenance to replace this 20-ton unit not to exceed $60,000 with either a 20-ton unit or two 10-ton units. Motion to authorize maintenance to replace the Holloway gym unit not to exceed $60,000 as presented.
Any questions?
I have a question, and I'm happy to make the motion to approve this. I'm just curious, what fund will that money come out of, Mr. Lee?
It'll either come out of capital projects or it'll come out of ending fund. If Mr. Beaudry can do it, we're still working that out.
Okay,
It'll be one of the two funds.
thank you.
It'll be in Fund 177, and what, like Mr. Lee was saying is, when he's saying fund balance, it'd come out of fund balance in 177. We did not increase for the, there was some pickup on the property tax, and that would be what I would request first from Health and Ed.
Any other questions?
Was this actually already on our deferred maintenance list?
Didn't hear
Just
the
popped up.
question.
Was it actually already on our deferred maintenance list?
Part of Holloway was, yes.
Okay. I'll second if Ms. Moore was making a
Move to approve, yeah.
All right, Ms. Moore made the motion, Ms. Sharp is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 14.
All right, Director of School Evaluation Instrument found on tab 7. The contract Director of School provides instrument to be used by the Board of Education to evaluate Director of Schools and shall be developed by the Board of Education and Director. The instrument must be adopted by the Board of Education at least 90 days prior to the performance of the evaluation. The Board needs to determine the instrument utilized. The instrument that has been previously utilized is attached in tab 7. The Board should discuss whether to utilize the same instrument or to utilize an alternative instrument. The floor will be open to discussion. Any motions the board members desire to make in regard to the instrument being used for the evaluation.
Any discussion? Do we have a motion?
Is there a motion on here?
You just have to make it, the board member would have to make the motion either to continue with what we've used in the past or make whatever changes you'd want to.
Mr. Chairman, I think that in the last process, for discussion purpose, the last time we went through this, there was some desire to collaborate between the director and the board for the instrument that we would use moving forward. I wonder if that's still the desire of the director and my fellow board members.
I think there's some on the current instrument that are very viable, but there's some things that I would think we would like to add. And I think perhaps maybe the night after during my time, I've got two individuals that will be talking about some things that we're doing currently or have done.
So then moving forward for this evaluation process, maybe we need to make a decision as board members, now that we know we're coming into this, should we brainstorm, think about what we'd like to see on the evaluation, have the director do the same thing, and then come back at the next meeting and maybe solidify and cut and paste, if you will? I mean, I'm just...
On the 90-day thing, obviously, we would want to, do it in the fall. 90 days, of course, from now, you're probably looking at August, I think it is, or I may be wrong. So it does still give you a little bit of time because you could put it on the September board meeting if you needed to, or maybe a late August board meeting.
The evaluation itself?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, that would give you more time to collaborate, to look and see what instrument you want to use. And like I said, there's a lot on here that I wouldn't change or wouldn't want to change.
Any other recommendations?
Yeah, I think Ms. Johnson's right. I think it merits, more conversation and input from both the board and the director. So I don't know if that's something that necessitates an entirely separate meeting or not, but if there could be maybe time carved out in one of the upcoming meetings that would give the board more time to look at the instrument and be prepared to make recommendations if they have any.
All right, we can have Ms. Hopkins to send out the instrument to everybody and hopefully come together on the next meeting. I just don't want to get in the situation we got into last year. We'll make sure we...
I think you got a little bit more time this time, but I think this gives you some time to, I mean, I don't think everyone's going to agree on the same thing. As long as 4 people agree on it, it doesn't matter.
All right. Any other comments? All right, number 15.
Insurance update.
We have, Mr. Spurlock said, we had the county insurance committee met at 1 o'clock today. It was a couple hours long, and you have in front of you the proposed rates for 22 that would take effect next January. It's on the legal paper in front of you. As you can see, the increases on the different plans. We see the renewal rates on the Board of Education. On that very first column, it says contribution percentage, and then you see on the top it's for the copay plan. You see an increase of the premium for 10%. Then below that, you see the deductible plan. It's for 7%. And then you have the HSA, which is a different type of plan. It's going from the HRA that we currently have to an HSA, which is a health savings allowance. Those that would go to that plan would see an actual drop in their premium by 1%. There is, besides that, they opened up on the second page what's called a local plus network. Our employees would have a choice that if they wanted to stay with the normal network that we have, the full network as you could call it, they could choose to do that next January. They also have a choice. This is more for the local plus network. This is something similar to what the state health plans have as an option as well. State health plans, they have a regular, robust insurance plans that have a robust network of physicians. Then they have others that have a more limited network of physicians, but the rates are lower. This is something that, one thing that had come up that said that this would allow an employee that's, a younger, more a healthy employee that might say, hey, I'm okay with less coverage because I want a less premium out of my paycheck. This would allow them a choice. They don't have to do it, but they could have that as a choice. So the insurance, the risk management department heard this, and this was one of the things that came out of our study committee that says we need to have more choices for our Board of Education employees so they can have an option. Obviously, at each stage of their life, they would have a different need, or possibly have a different need for more robust insurance coverage or less. That would be the employee's choice. And that is the result, that second page is the result of that conversation. As you can see, there's less coverage, there's less of a network that they would be, and they'll be coming out with that network of physicians and hospitals soon for employees. But as you can see, there's a decrease in the premium that the employee would pay if they chose to go to that limited network. Next page is the renewal rates for the dental premiums for dental insurance. They have remained exactly the same. There's no increase on that. And the next page is your vision, which, just like the dental, it remains exactly the same premium as this year that we're currently in. You have another page with you that gives, this is a one page on a letter form that gives you a summary of the difference between our current HRA plan and the proposed health saving allowance HSA plan. And it gives you the difference in the deductibles, out-of-pocket maximums, and some other items as you compare that. Once again, there's going to be a lot of information to be provided to our employees as they roll out from risk management, and we'll be sure that our employees have plenty of opportunity before the enrollment period this fall to see their different options. Does anybody have that? And once again, there's going to be a slight adjustment there with what I have in the budget for premiums, but it shouldn't be much now that I have the exact increase per plan.
Where's retiree?
That remains the same, and I apologize. That remains the same, and I will bring that to you.
10 and 7% is a pretty good renewal these days.
This, what this is the result of, I believe, is quite a bit from this school board, to ask risk management to really look at, what they could do to give better options to our employees.
Doug, or Mr. Buttery, I've got a question. I know sometimes, and I wasn't at the meeting, so I know sometimes when the carriers or the brokers or TPAs or whoever we're negotiating with come back with the renewal rates, that sometimes after that initial proposal or whatever they bring back, there's room for negotiation. Is that still the case here, or is this the final renewal?
This was the final,
Okay.
and they had looked at different scenarios over the last couple months, and they brought that to the county insurance committee.
Okay.
Dr. Anthony and I are on that committee by default, along with a REA rep, and so they had looked at different options.
Okay.
And of course, this one right here would be. It was, once again, I guess it's the same with everything as far as you're looking at available funding, and of course the benefit for the employee.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I appreciate your time on this, Doug, committees too, because
Appreciate it.
we're putting in a lot of work, and anytime we give our employees options, I think it's a win-win, so thank you. All right, number 16.
All right, 2 items. First of all, we'll start with our middle college, excuse me, I'm sorry about that. Dr. Chastain, you come up and make that announcement. Sorry about that.
Informative stuff or nothing. Yes, I'm here to talk about something that's been on our wish list for a long time, and that's a middle college. And you're going to hear me use middle college and early college. And so we're still kind of workshopping the name. So I'm going to transition and call it an early college for the exact reason that Mr. Spurlock just pointed out to us. It can be confused with middle school. So about 8 years ago, Mr. Ash actually started a dual enrollment program at Laverne High School. It was really the first of the type in this area, and since then it has grown by leaps and bounds under the watchful eye of Miss Terry Campbell, who's here with Dr. Hatchett. And just to brag on them a little bit, Motlow has been a phenomenal partner, and that probably is a whole other session about how great they've been. And they've worked with us and Laverne to take a few dual enrollment courses over those 8 years to, in the past 2 years, we've offered almost a hybrid middle college, even accessing some of those grant funds to offer an associate's degree program for Laverne High School students. And this is, we have a couple other associate degree programs within the county, but Laverne last year, 2020, with all that was going on, was able to graduate 41 students with an associate's degree and a high school diploma. That is a huge deal, and I can't say enough about the people that have really worked with those students. And we're talking about a lot of students that are first-generation college goers. So the ability to have, Motlow started this mornings at Motlow, so they were actually getting a little bit of a taste for the college campus, but it's kind of in a separate area. So that is a huge barrier that is removed, and those kids now have an associate's degree that is transferable within the Tennessee transfer pathway, so those go to every school in the state, and Ms. Campbell has yet to find a school that won't grant those credits, even without a state. So tremendous program that has grown over the last 8 years. What we're doing now, so what's different? So now what we're doing is taking it one step further, and this involves a different strategy, I guess you'll say, but these students will be on Motlow's campus full-time. So and we've got, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we've got about 60 to 70 kids that are slated to be in that first cohort. And these students will go, Motlow has worked with us, this has been a year's worth of planning for where they will be housed, kind of how the structure will be set up to make sure they are protected as high school students while still having access. So I'd say access is the biggest difference between what we've been doing and what we're going to start doing next year. So they have access to facilities, they have access to Motlow's labs, they have access to the professors, they have access to other programs that they wouldn't have been able to have at Laverne High School. So if they're interested in something else, they can go meet with that professor, take some classes if they wanted to on their own. So there's lots of different things that we're looking to grow this program into, but to have 60 to 70 students that are ready to hit the ground running is a phenomenal testament to how much work has gone into that program in the last 8 years. And I should mention that early college, this will be free to those students. So they will not pay $1. Yeah, I could go on and on about other things Motlow is trying to do to help us, but again, phenomenal partnership with them. So I've already mentioned Ms. Campbell and Dr. Hatchett, but Ms. Campbell has been she's like the shepherd of the program. And if you haven't had an opportunity to go see what Laverne's doing, I know now is probably not a good time with testing, but if you could have the opportunity to go see and talk to those students, there are amazing things happening. I think we have so much happening sometimes that we forget to actually go and talk to the kids that are taking advantage of those opportunities, but it is an amazing thing that they have access to. So thank you for continuing to fund these opportunities that most districts wouldn't dream of offering. And we have every single early post-secondary opportunity that is available.
Dr. Chastain's our coordinator, post-secondary and ready to graduate, and a little bit of everything.
All the fun stuff, yeah.
Science. Laverne is doing a great job. I mean, what we try to do is and by the way, you've worked fabulous with Motlow. I think it takes that partnership to get things done. This early college is one of it's called a middle college. We can make that change real quick in our strategic plan. So that's a check mark there.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so we'll check that off, and we'll go forward. By the way, we'll be bringing forward our updated strategic plan in the fall, early fall. We've met on it and checked off the things that we've already accomplished and things that we're going to add on there. The next thing is kind of a good information from Dr. Anthony in terms of our sub-fill rate.
Good evening. As you know, it's been a challenging year, not only for our faculty and staff, but also our substitutes. This week, we've seen a great increase. I was telling Mr. Spurlock our sub rate this week, it's been around 98%. Our teachers, as they're getting their vaccinations and continuing with the precautions that we have in place, we're being able to see several of them to be able to return to work and be well as our substitutes. So, we attribute a lot of that to our board keeping up our policy and our procedures. I also want to share that we've been working hand in hand with Advantage, not only to bring in additional substitutes, but also working with us on our virtual job fairs. You may know it or may not know it. We've participated in 67 out-of-state virtual job fairs this year alone. One thing that COVID did bring is an opportunity to expand that, and we've doubled our expansion from last year when we did a hybrid towards the end of the year. We did some virtual and before March, we were doing the in-person. So it's given us a great opportunity to reach out. We've contacted, this week we've worked with New Mexico, and we've been working with California, Wisconsin, Minneapolis, Minnesota area this past month. So we're getting our fillers out, and at this current time, we have talked to 500, actually 499 if I'm going to be exact, 500 approximately people that are willing to move to this area. We're a fast-growing area, and we're needing these people. And our virtual job fairs have not only included teachers, but also our classified staff as well. So a lot of the job fairs are opening up for us to be able to get other opportunities as well as to help us in our sub-fill rate. Several people moving to the area. So we're excited about that and excited about our rates of sub-fill going up as well.
I wanted to tell you real quick, I know two people that went through that virtual, that live here locally. One got hired in our system.
Yes.
It's going to be at Oakland High School. The other one sadly did go to Wilson County, but she said it was tremendous.
Oh, thank you.
And I just wanted to say bravo to you guys. Apparently it was just a rousing success, and I'm just so glad.
We were excited. We got a lot of early contracts in our hard-to-fill areas. So, Doug, look out. We're going to spend a little extra money on those early hard-to-fill areas. But we're really excited. Got some math candidates. MTSU only has 2 math graduates this year, and we've stolen those as well as a few others from other universities. But it's always keeping the word out, sharing our branding and all the great opportunities that are involved here. So we're just glad to be a part of it.
Thank you. Lastly, I want to remind everyone on the continuous learning plan, next year will not exist currently. The only way that the continuous learning plan will be brought back up again will be if the governor declares a state of emergency, which means we have our virtual school applications that are going on right now. If you're interested, apply. One of the things I want everyone to understand is the virtual school is a school. It has a school number. You cannot be enrolled in the virtual school and take classes in another school because they would have to be enrolled. And you can't be enrolled in 2 different schools. I think there are some things that we can work with in terms of courses that perhaps, I can't think of a course that, as far as core courses that we couldn't already offer in virtual school. Now, quite frankly, career and technical education is limited. You can't do a lot of virtual with some of the welding, virtual welding, and things of that nature, or MEP, or things of that nature. You can participate per TLIPS-LA if you do the co-op. And we're co-oping with Central Magnet, and that's it, right? Central Magnet. But they also can compete individually. Okay, so I don't want anyone to think that we're trying to, keep people from participating because you just can't be enrolled in 2 different schools.
Number 17, TLN.
Yes, we had a couple of bills that we've been following sort of the last several weeks. And one of them is the Senate Bill 1131, which has been brought up by Don White, our own Don. And it is the Tennessee Rapid Growth School District Fund. It creates the Tennessee Rapid Growth School District Fund for LEAs experiencing rapid growth in student population. It defines a Tennessee Rapid Growth School District as an LEA with a minimum average growth of 2% in average daily membership over the last 5 fiscal years. It requires the Commissioner of Education to establish a process for rewarding these grants. This bill is in finance at the present time and is still in Education Committee also. The other bill that we kind of looked at and talked about several times was the restrictions on supplemental materials used by teachers, public teachers using supplemental materials that are not approved by the State Board of Education. That is Senate Bill 659, and it is not being heard this year, so it has been tabled.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Number 18, Federal Relations.
Nothing this evening.
Nothing. All right. Any general discussion? Everybody good? Ms. Hopkins, you want to review our schedule next week or two here, or got May 4th coming up? All right. All right, if nothing else, we are adjourned.